Well, this morning, intense negotiations are now underway in the Middle East as Israel and Hamas negotiate a potential ceasefire to stop the fighting and get hostages out.
Violence in the region and protests here in the U.S. are escalating the already tense environment. CBS reporter Tina Kraus has the latest.
Anger over Israel's failure to bring hostages home is spilling onto the streets, with Israelis stepping up protests to pressure Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to cut a ceasefire deal with Hamas.
My heart breaks for us, for the hostages and their families, and also for Gaza.
Anti-war clashes are also continuing to break out on college campuses across the U.S., with Israeli and Palestinian supporters shouting slogans and insults. Secretary of State Antony Blinken flew into Saudi Arabia this morning on his 7th visit to the region since the war began nearly 7 months ago, arriving hours after President Biden had a phone call with Prime Minister Netanyahu about Israel's possible ground assault on Rafah. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas says an Israeli attack on the southern city, where more than 1 million civilians are taking refuge, would be the biggest catastrophe in the history of the Palestinian people. He's urging the U.S. to convince Israel to call it off. The Biden administration is pushing Israel to boost humanitarian aid. Israel says it's a top priority.
Food, water, medical supplies, shelter equipment, and other aid. More of it is going into Gaza than ever before.
But with the clock ticking on a ceasefire, there's concern getting hostages out of the hands of Hamas could be an even tougher battle. Tina Kraus, CBS News, London.
The United Nations says the Gaza Strip has witnessed unprecedented levels of destruction since the start of the war in October, and they warn it could take 14 years to clear the rubble and the unexploded bombs.